The following program contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and the girls, welcome to Ox After Dark, the late night, great night show where Dean, the Dream, Martin, and Feezy's figures talk about our dreams, our lives, our trials, our tribulations, and more. How we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing good, sir.
Yeah, doing pretty good, man. Just hanging out. I got Kevin right here, little boy.
Look at that dude.
Guess
So, it has been an interesting week. Not as stressful as last week.
Nice.
So I mentioned that I had felt so embarrassed in that CVS interview a while ago, and Ding, we'll actually talk about that. He says, "Have you gone shooting lately?" So I mentioned that I felt really embarrassed. I got shut down on that job interview, but I actually had an email about a job I applied to for a content creation job for a local community college. And I thought it was like pretty hopeful because they sent me like, here's the employee benefits that you might get, like here's a more detailed job description, like, and I was like, wow, this is like the first time a real person that seems to be really interested in me has reached out. I felt so good. And it was about 4:45 when they sent that message, and I was like, yes, like this is what the fuck I'm talking about. And so they were like, can you just send us like a portfolio and a link to the different content that you produce so we can, because I don't have a degree in what I'm applying for, but you can substitute the degree for experience in the field. And so obviously like in the resume, I'm like, hey, I've been making content since 2017. They needed to like verify that was accurate. So I sent them a link to like some of our different feeds and whatnot, and at like 8:40 this morning they were like, I think we're good. But they sent me like a automated form thing, which was kind of like, I don't know, I felt it was a bit disrespectful because like the lady had already made contact, so like she could have just told me like, hey, we're not interested. So either the content that we produce is divisive, which some of our YouTube shorts are pretty wild, so it could be it, or just it's just not what they need. So I'm going to email her back tonight and ask for some feedback on, kind of why they decided to go a different way. But I will say I got a call back somewhat,
Nice.
so I
Yeah.
feel like I'm making some progress.
Yeah.
It is it's going to be a good week though, because so before we went on, Feezy was like, oh, I like your shirt. And I was like, oh, thanks. I'm buying clothes now. Obviously, I buy clothes, but
Adult.
I don't know. I feel like with COVID, for a while, I've just been like in this personal care rut. And so my wife and I we were meeting someone at a place that like we go to this place all the time. And we're like, let's finally check into this thrift store that we've always seen that we always want to go to. And that's a few episodes ago, we found that statue there. And so I had found like a bunch of really nice, like Ralph Lauren polo. Like, I mean, I don't know what they cost now, but when I was in high school, they were like $100 a shirt for like the polos with the little embroidered logo. I found like 3 or 4 of them in my size. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, so we've been doing like a bunch of thrifting, and apparently people give those away a lot, which is kind of crazy. So I have like a little, this isn't Ralph Lauren, but I have like a nice little collection going. But I want like thicker shirts. And the reason is because I've been carrying a lot lately. And a lot of the shirts that I have, they're just like shitty, like no-name Walmart, like generic t-shirts, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But they're very thin. And with the weapon that I use, there's an optic on it. And it prints really bad. Like you can see the outline of the optic really bad, regardless of where I put it. And so, to answer King's question, this Saturday I'm finally gonna do my class, and I'll be shooting at the class. So I'm excited to do that. But I think it's like very structured the way that you're shooting. Like it's a 50 round test. and I guess like you shoot like 3 shots, then 2 shots, then 3 shots, then 2 shots. They move the target back, and then you kind of repeat. They move it back, and they move it back. You have to achieve a minimum score, which apparently isn't that difficult. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. We'll definitely share that experience next After Dark. But yeah, I'm excited for that. So I've
Nice.
been thrifting, and it's been fun. We actually went with my parents on Sunday to like this fancy Goodwill, I guess if that exists, kind of like on a nicer side of town. It was really nice shit. It was really expensive stuff too, though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like a really nice like electric fireplace, like a huge one. Like mine, the one that I have, it's lovely, and Paul is an angel for picking it up for me. But it's like, you know, maybe 30 inches. This was like 60 inches and like 50 inches. It was
Holy
huge.
shit.
It was absolutely huge.
That's a fireplace. The electronic.
Well, it's like an electric. It's like a
Electric?
mantle plus the fireplace.
Shit.
Yeah. Oh man, this guy really didn't like our LSPDFR video. He said the only people more pathetic than people who pretend to be police are the police. So there's that
Damn.
guy. I'm gonna
Shots
reply.
fired. No pun intended.
The only people more pathetic than people who pretend to be police are people who comment about people who pretend to be police. It's funny, we get comments like this a lot, like troll comments, and I always have fun with them. Not in a bad way. I used to be like real bad with it. Borderline psychopath with it. But now I just have fun with it. It actually makes me laugh. And actually, we've had a lot of people comment on our Hotshot Comics video, and I've reached out to like some different investigative journalists in the area, some big companies, some small companies. I don't know that anyone's really interested in the story, so we may do another video on it. I'm working on getting all the data. But I had another comment. This guy says he got scammed about $10,000, which is fucking insane.
Holy shit. So follow-up question to the selection of the shirts.
Yes.
So it sounds like you want to get thicker shirts to make it seem like you're not caring, but
Exactly. So like if you imagine like the best way I can describe it is like imagine you had like really shitty like that tissue paper that they use for like packing presents, and you wrapped a gift in that, you would see like, oh, that's, you know, whatever.
yeah.
Versus like a nice like thick wrapping paper that it's a little harder to discern what's behind.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to
So-
see the outline of the baseball bat.
Exactly.
gift,
Exactly. So, but it's yeah. So I've been doing that, and I've also been getting like, because again, my shorts are like very athletic wear shorts, like not athletic wear, but they're like maybe like golfing shorts, I guess. Like they're kind of thin. So also that prints on the gun. So I've been having to buy like thicker, almost like cargo type shorts, or like, you know, just like a little bit thicker weave shorts. But my outfit has been looking pretty good. So I'm gonna be dripping like a faucet at OxCon. So that's exciting. Let's check in with the chat here. We got Arc Fordo, Bob Dylan, Feezy's Figures, Toy Cartel, King Dingling, Collector Joey, Badfish, DJ, ready to After Dark. Lane the Legend Kramer couldn't make it tonight. Hopefully he's feeling better though. Lane Cursor, your pink shirt there, Oxfeller matches a pink Mustang that drove past my work the other day. It's a good looking Mustang. Yeah, so since Fordo's in the chat, I'll show him what I'm working on now. So he sent me this file that he wanted me to print for him. But when I scaled it, it's fucking huge, and I feel like it's not supposed to be that size. So the way that I scale files, it's if it's a 1:1 file, I scale it 16.67%, which is 1/6. But this seems like pretty long for a rifle, so I need to double check with him. But if you're watching, Fordo, I sent you a text. Fern said he's so confused right now. Fern, what are you confused about, my guy? Let us know. But yeah, it's been a good week. We Yeah, Abe. So I was just texting Zach. Love you guys. Big shout out to Dinomite.
Dino
Supposed to be getting lunch with Abe sometime next week, so that should be fun.
Nice. He's a good guy. I printed some, or my sister printed them for me, but some comic book stands.
Hey, there you go.
Because I have the ones I took from my other stuff to put in front of Punchline. So I needed some backup, so printed those. It'd take about an hour or so.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty simple design, just
Yeah.
having a 3D printer is so invaluable.
Yeah, man. Every time I see your guys' work, I'm like, damn, if only.
There you go. Yeah, 3D printing is awesome. I've been looking at different files like CGC stand files, graded collectible like like Pokemon cards, whatever files. Some good stuff, man. You can pretty much find out whatever you want, which is fucking awesome. Or you can just make it,
Yeah.
which is awesome too. This was one of my favorite comments here. I love the troll comments, to be honest. This guy, how bored do you got to be to roleplay GTA? And I was like, almost as bored as you have to be to comment on it. And he said, I wish I didn't even watch it. And his username was Mason Generic. And I was like, bro, you're generic. I need name brand Mason here. And he's like, oh, he's dead. And I'm like, rip my boy Mason. He a real one. And then he's like, thanks, G. He might be missed. But it's like, how bored do you have to be to comment that? And then to like
Some
keep
people
commenting.
just want attention, dude.
But it helps the algorithm. So like, bro, keep commenting, bro. Go all day with that.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
We do get a lot of. It's weird because if you do like the math, the views to comments ratio I think is highest on OxPD. It's pretty wild how many people comment on that show. I mean, not that it's not a good show. It just surprises me. Like we get comments here and there. Like that Hotshot Comics video was pretty crazy, comment wise, for bad reasons, obviously. But it always surprises me, like the videos that do get a lot of comments, it's just like totally out of nowhere. So,
Yeah.
You guys are killing it.
well,
Trying.
that is true. That is true. So, how's your channel been going, buddy?
It's going. You know, it's steady. Like I mentioned before. You know, I'm not in it for the big numbers, but you know, it's just more of a, you know, when I can and for fun. But thanks for asking though. It's
Dude, you're the star of the show, bro. What are you talking about? He messaged me earlier and he was like, "You have space room?" I'm like, "Bro, you're the star, bro.
yeah.
You're
Okay.
the absolute star." Sean says, "I'm becoming a 3D printing nut. I guess since Xmas myself, my printer is running as we speak." That's the great part about printing. So, I mean, there are projects that I do that do take a bit longer. So, for example, I'll show you some stuff that I'm finishing. I've been really bad about finishing some stuff that I owe Marco, but like this is a base that I printed for Marco, 3D printed and painted.
Looking
I
good.
like the projects that don't take too long. So this is like a kind of a simple paint job, just black paint and then a dry brush. This one is like the longest thing that I printed. Not printed, but to do. It's like a little pizza box. So the pizza.
Nice.
Look at this, Dean. Papa Ox pizza, baby.
Cute. Is that a decal?
It's like a piece of paper, but I just taped.
Oh, okay.
Glued it.
Yeah. So
I put little glasses on the little Italian guy. And I'm working on other things but it's hard because I don't do. So a lot of times, like I need people to test things. So this is one thing that I'm working on. It may not make sense if you've never built a diorama, but the hardest thing for me is making the little bricks. So this is basically like a stamp, and you just like press it into the pink foam, and it'll, in theory, should make the little. So when you paint it, you just have to like do the wash to get the what is it called, mortar?
Yeah.
The white stuff between the bricks.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing because I designed one and I printed it and it came out like this. I'm like, damn, these are like micro bricks. So I had to like rescale it. I guess I wasn't thinking about how big bricks were. This is another fun one that I printed. So this is all 3D printed. This is Symbiote Spider-Man.
Oh, nice.
And I
Oh,
painted it.
badass.
That is badass.
It's
Yeah,
for
that's
a
what it is.
game called Marvel Crisis Protocol. But it says here lies Eddie Brock. Sorry, I couldn't read that.
Oh,
Shit, yeah, that is badass.
yeah. Fuck Eddie Brock.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Here, let me see if I can zoom in a bit because I'm actually really proud of this one.
Suck it, Brock.
Yeah, that's fucking
that's
cool.
I also printed it much larger, like in 1/12 scale, probably about 1/10 scale actually. This is a thing I'm working on for Ben. I feel bad because I just haven't had time to finish it, but it's an ocarina.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's what it looked like. Nice.
So it's sanded. I need to go through a few more coats of filler and sander.
Does it work?
But,
Yeah, you can actually play it.
Yeah.
Play something.
I don't know how to use it, but it does.
Serenade me.
You can actually play it.
That's badass.
That is.
Yeah. So
I've
It's
been
fun.
working on
I actually-
a project.
before you share that, I actually printed Victoria the Majora's Mask. I printed her an ornament sized one, and her brother saw it and was like, "Oh my god, I want it!" And she gave it to him, and I was like, "Victoria, why did you do that?" Freaking took me so much to do this project, and I printed one. It's like this big. It's huge, out of plastic. I think it came out pretty good. Twig Cartel says I might hit you up to print a new MF Doom mask for my 1/6 figure. Yeah. If you have the file, I can pretty much print anything, bud. And if you want me to hold off on shipping those glasses so I can ship them together, just let me know. But yeah, 3D printing, man, is fucking... It's wild. Like, even these things here, these were ornaments last year. We're going to make some new ones for 23.
Man,
So.
Zach's Wonderland in full effect.
Hey, there you go.
Hey.
Yeah, it's super fun. It is super fun. But yeah, what are you working on? Do you see you had an art project? My apologies.
Yeah, I just shared the screen.
Oh, is that Punchline?
Yeah, so I'll go through this, kind of just showing my, techniques and stuff. So start with a line drawing. Nothing too crazy. Mm-hmm. And then I'll actually just go over this layer by layer. So got the little hair pieces and then some like detail on them.
Nice. Yeah.
And then highlights on them. And then...
I'm going to step away for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, this is hair highlight. So color in the hair and then got some highlights. So she's got the blue bangs, some more hair. You'll see the hair in a little bit because it's on the very bottom layer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, in fact, I need to actually, now that I'm right here, I need to erase this.
So how long would like a piece like this typically take you?
This is taking me, I don't know, roughly, like 6 hours maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll see when I get to the end, so then you start drawing in the face detail. There's the mouth, teeth and tongue. Color that in, color in the teeth. Then you get to the eyes.
What part of these pieces do you like doing the most?
I guess the titties. No, I'm just kidding. Figuring out the pose is cool.
Yeah.
So she's got her makeup.
Do you go and do the pose yourself? Like, do you do this pose in the mirror ahead of time?
No, usually look up like a reference or just freehand it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So then there's the line art, right? And got the detail of her clothing.
Yeah.
Zipper detail, pocket zipper, then the highlights. So obviously I'm going top to bottom, whereas usually you go bottom to top. So it'd be like, I'll just show you really quick here. So you got the color of the outfit.
Nice. Yeah.
Then you go back up here, and then you have it's kind of hard to pick that up, but the shading, then the highlights, and then the glossy highlights. Same thing for the boots, down here.
That looks good. The outfit looks nice already.
And then, what is this?
Oh,
this is her.
Are just like reflections there.
What? Down here?
Yeah, all those. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, these are just little reflections, and
nice.
the
Yeah, that's
zippers
good.
are here.
Is it?
So then more glove detail. It's hard to pick all that up because it's so small, but
Yeah. good,
and then you
man.
got like the little bomb. Okay, and then then you got her bodysuit color.
Oh,
And then I guess this would technically be the most fun, but it is also the most difficult, is like contouring with color.
yeah.
So, obviously her
Shadows.
breasts would, yeah, exactly, cast shadows. And then you go in there and do some more highlights and lowlights.
Oh shit.
Her detail in her outfit. Then you got her freckles up there, her blush, her lowlights on her face, highlights on her face, then the base skin tone.
Holy shit.
Oh, this is her little cape, right? So you have folds and creases that you gotta, put in the detail. Then, so
Folds
that's
are important.
the back hair, right? And then I gotta delete all this stuff down back here.
Damn, dude, that looks sick.
And then, so her hair's black, and then she's got purple ends. So, like, when it all comes together,
Yeah. Bam. So do you, what do you typically do with the pieces that you like? Do you actually print them out and do like a companion piece next to your statues or your figures, or what do you do with them?
I guess I could. I usually just keep them on the computer.
Oh, okay.
I've tried to put them in, like, the Patreon chat, but, like, no one ever, like,
You gotta put it. You gotta put it in the like. Send it to me, and I can put it on the wall because it gets busy. Like I put up like an informal poll for people to vote on our next live unboxing.
Yeah.
Since Dean and I are gonna be doing that from now on, and I think I got like one answer, and I was like, I know it's not because people don't care. It's just because the chat moves so fast. I guess maybe they don't care, but. Dean, I think I speak for everyone when I say I think a lot of us would really enjoy an uncensored version in the Patreon chat. So
Yeah, I
if
saw
you
your
can,
comment earlier. I was like, wow.
If you don't mind helping us with that, that would be invaluable.
A variant, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, bro, but she got them heavies, dude. Look at that.
Wow.
I'm proud of this one. And I've done some other punchlines. Let's see. Oh yeah, like this one. This is a lot rougher.
Whoa, yeah.
I actually like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I actually would like that one
Rawness.
uncensored as well.
Yeah,
Just
you
putting it out
please.
there.
And then I did this one. This was not as good. As you can see, that this is probably like, I don't know, a year ago, and it's like not very good.
Still better than what I can do. But yeah, I can definitely see the progress, though. That's still pretty
Yeah.
good.
So to answer Hugh's question, it's tough. So he said, can you do a how to get started with 3D printing video, like where to buy one, materials, software, etc.? We could talk about it now. It's hard because I have to like wager the time it's going to take to like formally produce something. So I think it might be better to do like on a stream like now or like after dark at some point. I mean, if y'all are up for that, we can do that today. The only problem is like, I don't want this to sound like a douche comment, but there'll be times like I'll put hours into making a video and then it doesn't really get us any views. And I've never been about the views, but it's also like, I do want to try to like put out a content that can help people. So that's why I like doing streams. I hate making content. I know that's a joke I always say, but I really do hate making like videos like that. So if y'all want, we can talk 3D printing for Hugh, and we can just keep this episode public forever. It's just hard. It's hard because like to do a video like that, to produce it, I mean, you could do like an hour-long video, and I don't know that it's
Or
tough.
do you have any?
It's tough.
I
I
don't know
guess
if
the
you're
best
up
way I
for
can say
this.
it's tough.
Or maybe there's suggestions that you can put to other people that you've seen, or like other videos who've already made that content.
Possibly, yeah.
There's always that alternative.
I mean, it's just hard because it changes so often. I don't know. I don't know really what the best way to do that would be. We could talk a little 3D printing if y'all want. Let us know in the chat. Okay, so what I had to go grab. So Slifer sent me a package, and he's a big fan of OxPD, a big fan of the channel. Really lovely guy. So shout out to Mark. Dean, I don't know how interested in this you would be, but I think he may have sent us more than one item, so we can parse this out. But he is a police officer, and I was like, hey, I think it's super cool that you're like that's super awesome. Like to be a police officer is.
Wait, who is this?
Slifer in the
Oh,
chat.
okay, cool.
I believe he's also an auxiliary. And so we had talked for a bit. He's gonna send me a few other things, but this is what he sent so far. So I'll open it up and
Did he send his badge?
that would actually be pretty cool. Mark, if you want to send me your badge, I'd rock the shit out of that. So what he sent, oh, this is actually really cool.
My dad still has all his.
Damn. Okay, so I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to give you, Dean. I take back a lot of what I said. This is actually super fucking cool. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So this is I don't know exactly what these are, to be honest. Oh, I think there might be two of them. Oh, maybe there's. Oh, okay. So these are challenge coins, I think is what he said. So he works for the NYPD.
Oh,
so
badass.
Oh, that is cool.
Let's see if I can zoom in.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
protecting our city, honoring our heroes. This is beautiful. Oh man, it's hard to tell, but it has like a
wow, that's pretty good. Yeah.
So there you go, like that little plastic in there. That's cool. And on the
is
back,
it plastic? I thought it was. Yeah.
Police Benevolent Association of New York. That's fucking cool. So I think on this one.
That's cool. Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, so he sent two that are very similar. So this is more like a little bit more round.
Oh yeah.
And again, I just messaged him and I was like, hey, like I don't know if you guys have like stickers or like swag items that you're allowed to give out. And he's like, yeah, like I have a bunch of these coins that he's like they're just collecting dust.
Nice.
Just trying to figure
Yeah,
out
they
what
have
these.
something similar in the military too. We used to.
Yeah,
those
yeah,
for
exactly.
different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Sean's right. Like, there's a lot of really good videos out there. It would be hard for me to point to the ones that I watched because, you know, I'm weird. Like, when I learn something, I just spend like 24/7 learning that thing, and then I master it and I move on to something else. It's really weird.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, man.
The thing that I would say that I can do for you, Hugh, if you do want to get into printing, so I'm gonna do this. Like, I want to try to do this. Well, let's talk about this first, and then we'll get into that. So this is a New York Police Department. Again, it's a coin, real pretty with that green.
Yeah.
And on the back it says courageous professionalism and respect, Operation Impact. A really cool coin there. And then he gave me this one. This is East Flatbush, which I think is
Like a neighborhood?
actually, I don't know if I can. Okay, I don't think this is a badge. It has a badge number on the back, so I'm not gonna show that. But I don't think it's a badge,
Social.
but just in case.
Yeah.
I'll take this out, Slifer, if it's something I'm not supposed to be sharing. But so that's really cool. So Mark, what I told Mark is like, hey, I know you've bought from Zach's Wonderland. Like, if you ever need anything done, like, I'm your guy, bro. I'll do it for you in exchange for these coins. So Mark, thank you. I know he is gonna work on getting me a sweater or something. So I appreciate that. I don't know how much these mean to you, but they do mean a lot to me. So thank you very much. I know he said he just kind of had a bunch of them that he doesn't really display, but these mean a lot. This is really cool. So one thing that I want to do, I want to talk to you guys about it because I don't know if it's a worthwhile endeavor, but I've had this idea for about a week, which isn't saying a lot. And I want to put this delicately. So I love, and so on Fiverr, you can do consultations with people for a number of things. And I feel like with what we do and how long we've done it, podcasting and also in a way 3D printing, I want to do, like, for the people that listen, I wouldn't charge you, obviously we could just chat, but just on Fiverr for like to put it out there, like, hey, if you're new to 3D printing, you can pay me for an hour one-on-one session where we'll go through some sample prints. We'll kind of walk you through the programs. I kind of got the idea. I was working with in the chat, Fat Batman. He had just got a 3D printer. I basically took him from not knowing anything to like basically printing like in an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, he had done some research, so I don't want to say he didn't know anything, but and then also for podcasting, right? Because doing what we do, like setting up the RSS feed, like marketing your stuff, like being consistent, understanding how to use Audacity, understanding how to use YouTube Studio, like all that stuff is difficult to learn. And I feel like we've helped a lot of people get started in YouTube, in podcasting as well. So I think I want to try it. I'm not saying like it'll make a lot of money, but just as like a side thing, what do y'all think about that?
I would say
You hate it. I hate you, Feezy.
no. The only
Just
thing
kidding.
is like you're competing with just that, right? In my opinion, you're competing with all the videos that are already out there. Like you suggested earlier about, or people in the chat about 3D printing, right? If you want to get started in 3D printing, there's some videos out there to go look. So I would
100%.
say, yeah, that would kind of have to be taken into consideration because
It would be a very niche thing. Like, hey, I'm
for
just
sure.
not doing well. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, because I see it in a lot of Facebook groups. People are like, I just don't know what to do with podcasting. Like, I feel like I'm getting nowhere. Not that we've been like uber successful, but I think we've had a lot of success. Just an option. I don't know. I've been thinking about it lately, about how it could be a thing.
Because then because I imagine I'm not really familiar with Fiverr, but it seems like it's like you just go put your services out there and people pay you, right?
Yeah, because I pay people for different things on Fiverr. We actually use an artist there. Actually, I messaged him about some stuff that we.
That you guys do, the services you have.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes, what can you provide for a cost versus what people can get on YouTube for free, I guess is ultimately what's going to.
Yeah, and I still think like 95% of people would just do YouTube, but I think it's just for that 5% that are very like visual learners or.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or just need like.
Dean, you're on mute.
Yeah, a little extra help.
Yeah.
Yeah, like want more of like a one-on-one kind of thing.
Yeah. So should we talk 3D printing? I don't know if you're interested in that, Feezy, if you want to hear about that.
I would just ask questions. I don't really have anything to contribute because I don't obviously have one, but I'm down to just talk and listen.
Okay. Because we don't have Mando to play, so I'm kind of struggling with what to do for the back half of the show for the first time in like a while. So let's talk. We'll talk printing. So I want to think of how I want to. And again, I'm much better live than I am on pre-record. So we're gonna split this up into two sections. We'll do plastic printing and resin printing. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So if you want to get into plastic printing, which is filament, PLA. Well, you could do a lot of different materials.
Yeah, PET.
PET, yeah. So we'll just do PLA for now because I think that's the simplest material. I recommend personally the Ender 3. I know, Dean, you like to use the Prusa Mark III, which is a bit more of a premium printer. Maybe this is a bad example, Dean, but I feel like the Ender 3 is like a Honda Civic and the Prusa is more like a BMW. Like, it has more premium features. It has more premium build stuff. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean the Prusa Mark III, I think if you buy the kit to build it yourself is like $600, but if you buy it already built, it's like $800. So
yeah,
that's a huge price increase. But I mean, for $189, especially if you're just getting started, this is going to do everything you needed to do.
Sure. And so to understand how 3D printing works, the best way that I can describe it is if you take a book and you turn it on its side and you have the book in front of you, you have a book, right? but the book is made of any number of pages, and we'll call those pages slices, right? So the way that a 3D printer works, this type of printer, there are different type of printers that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but the way that a filament printer works is you take a spool of filament that can be any number of materials. We'll use the example of PLA, polylactic acid. It heats it up and it extrudes it through a nozzle. And we'll use the example if you're just making a square and you want to make that square 1 millimeter high. So what will happen is your printer will draw a square and it'll move up a prescribed amount, and it will draw another square. It'll move up the prescribed amount, draw another square. And at some point you will have a 1 millimeter tall square with the material that you've chosen. It's very simple. It's very simplistic, but that's kind of how that works. Now, the printer, like I said, it's $189. It's not a... I mean, when you add up the startup cost, it does get a little expensive. But if you're printing stuff to order, you can make that back pretty quickly. Now, this is the filament that I use, and I actually got this filament from Dini. It's Overture PLA, and it comes in 1 kilogram or 2 kilogram, or even I think it's 5 kilogram spools. I personally just buy the 1 kilogram. Now, this is the material that you use to create your projects out of. So let's just go here onto this one. And it comes in any number of colors. The color doesn't typically matter. I personally stay away from, you see here, this is called silk. I don't like printing silk. I've had a lot of bad experience with silk, but there are some really fun filaments that you can get. There's like glow in the dark, color changing filaments. There is some really nice colors you can print in. One of my favorites is morning blue. I've printed olive green. I've printed some really nice things with a lot of these colors here. So I would recommend this company, and for about $25 a kilogram. It's hard to say like what can you print with 1 kilogram. So we'll go through a sliced program, and I'll kind of show you what that means, because you can often print a lot more than you think. And then depending on what you're printing, you can print a lot less than you think. So we'll talk about that in a second. So that's kind of a start there. So $185 for the printer, $25 for a kilogram of filament, and you can print a lot of things with that. But let's talk about getting. Let's see what Hugh put, because I want to make sure I answer all these questions. Where to buy one, material and software. Okay, so the software that I recommend, Dean, I know you probably use Prusa Slicer, right?
Yeah.
I like Cura, but I do use Prusa Slicer a lot. So Cura is a free program. You can download it on the Ultimaker Cura website. It is what's called a slicer. So again, when I said a book is made up of multiple layers or pages, a print is made up of multiple slices. And what a slicer does is it creates what's called a G code. Now, my first ever really big 3D printing mistake was thinking I could take a G code from one printer and put it into any other printer and it would work. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do. Do not, under any circumstances, you should not ever, 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 ever do that. I want to say that again. If you find a G code online, make sure it's for your exact printer, because you will fuck your shit up if you put a G code in. I scratched the shit out of my build plate and messed up my nozzle like my first day of printing because I didn't understand that. So we talked about the slicer. I'll show you where I get some of my files from, and then we'll download a file and support it in the slicer. I'll show you what that looks like. And then we'll talk about resin printing. So I like printables. There's also Thingiverse and Cults 3D. Thingiverse is typically free. Or actually, I think everything's free on Thingiverse. Printables is as well. Cults does have files for sale. So usually what I do is I just go to the 3D model page and I search by downloads or makes, and I find things that are cool to me. So I want to find something that doesn't have any support, because I don't want to do a supported model right now. So this is one that I've printed before that comes out really fun. So let's... Big Dog 1. I don't know if they're compatible with Mac. Dean, maybe you can answer that. I think you have Mac in your house.
I don't use my printers on my Mac,
Let me see if I can find a fun
so I
print.
don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, we'll just download this one. So you go to Files, and you go to Download. So one important thing when you're downloading files is to always check the details. So they sometimes will say like, no supports needed, or you must add these supports. And a lot of thing also for printing is like what you can and can't sell. I would say it's probably a little bit of a gray area about that. Obviously, like if you're just selling one privately to a friend, no one's going to know. But I certainly wouldn't go make an Etsy and try to sell like thousands of these without the proper license. And that's part of the reason why I don't make the N1s is because I don't have a license to do that. So we'll look at this file because this is a fun file. It's pretty easy and it can demonstrate some really neat things. So we'll go into our slicer, which is Cura. Again, there's a lot of different slicers. This is just the one that I like to use. And you drag and drop the file in, and boom, you have the file. So on the left, you have the move options, so you can move the file obviously any number of directions. You don't want it floating in space because that wouldn't work. You have the scale options, so these are all scaled to 100%. So earlier in the stream when I was saying I make it 1/6 scale, this is where you would scale these prints. You can have it uniform scale, so when you would change one thing, everything will change to match the scale factor. Or you can turn that off so you can make him like really skinny or really fat. I probably wouldn't do that, but that is what you can do. So let's just reset everything back to 100%. Just delete that and bring it back.
You could also, if you want as big a print as possible, do fill
yeah,
plate.
you can fill the plate, yeah, 100%.
And it'll automatically scale it to where it's as big as your printer can possibly make it.
Holy shit.
So you don't have to guess. You could just fill build plate.
Now you can also rotate a print. Sometimes we've mentioned this on After Dark before, but sometimes there are optimal printing orientations. In this case, this is the optimal orientation, but sometimes you get a file and it looks like this, and you know that obviously that's not correct. You can just pop it flat. Per model settings and support blocker, I won't go into those right now, but this is how you support a model. So we'll go into some slicer settings and we'll talk about this. And so layer height. So when I said that a model is made up of pages, we'll just slice this and we'll talk about what these numbers mean. If we're making a model that's 1 millimeter tall and our layer height is 0.2 millimeters, that means it takes 5 layers, 5 times 0.2 to make a 1 millimeter tall object. Now, when you look at what that means, each of these tiny little lines is 0.2 millimeters tall, and they will combine 712 times, so 712 lines to make this object. And what that looks like, if we go to the play button here, actually let's go to layer 1. If you press play, it'll show you the path of the nozzle. So you can see the printer will basically start making this object like that, and it'll continue on its way. That's all I want to share right now for layer height. Wall thickness, that's how thick the walls of the item are and how many walls that there are. Infill is the percentage of the model that is hollow. So there, in any model, there may be like spaces that are intended to be hollow. So obviously this is a hollow model. But if you're printing a cube, a solid cube, the infill density will decide how much of that is the material that you're printing and how much of that is air. And so in this case, we're doing 20%. We'll slice it again. And this is probably a bad example because I don't know how much cross-section we'll have. But let's see if I can find a little bit within the model. So again, looking at the model, as it's printing, you start to see these little shapes that start to form. Those shapes are the infill. And those are the density of this here is 20%. So if I set this to 100%, this would basically print solid outside of the areas that are hollow. I like 20% for items like this that are, you know, not necessarily need to be super durable, but they do have some use factor to them. I have never, except for one time, gone above 60%. There's a lot of videos on YouTube where you can look up like the strength of an item related to its density. And after about 60 to 70%, you actually start to lose strength because of the weight that you get. And the infill pattern, you can set a number of shapes. So I like to use cubic or lightning. Lightning, if it's a non-functional item, something that's just on display, tends to print a little bit faster. These are the printing temperatures. You get these from the actual material that you're printing. So PLA is, I think it's 190 degrees Celsius to 220. I like 210.
Yeah. On every spool that you buy, it'll tell you the optimal temperature for whatever it is. So you don't really have to worry about knowing what that is because it tells you on the spool. Print at this temperature.
Yeah. Now, I will say there typically is a range. And for me personally, I bump mine to 210 and 65 as opposed to the standard 260. I just felt like I was getting better prints that way. But it all depends on where you're printing. So I print in a garage that's not air conditioned. If Dean's printing in his basement and it has air conditioning, his settings may be different. I said garage, or did I say basement? I'm sorry. But yeah, it just depends on where you're printing. If you're printing in a enclosed area that is completely sealed, you might not need to use that temperature. And it just depends.
Yeah, it also, again, you got to check the spool because every PLA is different. Like Zach said, if it's glow in the dark, it's different. If it has those like speckled glitter, it's different. Every PLA is basically different, even down to the color sometimes. You know, white would melt faster than, say, a black or something. So you just gotta pay attention to what the spool says and do some test prints. Because sometimes the temperature it tells you technically is correct, but you get a lot of, what do you call that, Zach? Where it's like kind of like spider webby. You have this like
I think
plastic.
it's called webbing. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of you got a lot of nasty webbing, and you gotta adjust your temperatures.
Yeah, definitely. So
it sounds a lot more complicated than it is.
Yeah, I'm just being very like exact because that's the way that I teach, and I think for me that I feel a little bit better about that. So the build plate temperature, if you're having problems with your prints not sticking, you can bring that up to improve adhesion. Print speed, I never touch. It's just what the printer says. We'll skip this one. Cooling, I like cooling while I print. It has a fan on the nozzle that kind of cools the material as you go. I found that helps. So support, this model doesn't need support, but you could do different options. So you see the red there on the bottom, and that's technically an unsupported overhang area. So if we generate what's called tree support, we'll let that computer think for a second. It'll generate from the base of the floor here up to that area a random set of shapes to connect these red areas when the overhang is greater than 45. So if you think you're printing a right angle, as long as it's greater than 45, it won't matter. Or less than 45, it won't matter the overhang, but greater than 45, it'll require support. You set that angle on your own. There are tests that you can do to see what your printer can print at, but I just go with 45, and you could be cheeky and put like 50 or 60. I've seen some people do 70. The last thing I want to do is have like a 10-hour print fail at the last minute because I was being cheeky and trying to save a little bit of time. So looking at the support structure, this is tree, so it's like just kind of random shapes. I like using tree a lot, but you can also use normal supports, which again, it'll just take a second to generate that. You'll see the difference between normal and tree supports. And it should be, oh, damn it. Sorry. We'll see what that looks like. Ben says, can you make me a Borg cube? I don't know what that is, but send me a link and I can look into it.
A Borg cube?
So,
from Star Trek, the Borg?
Yeah, I know what that is.
Their ship is a big fucking cube.
I've seen like
it's like
Star Trek.
It looks like a Death Star, but it's a cube. So it's like very, very mechanical. Lots of like lights and shit. The Borg cube is fucking cool.
This is what normal supports look like, and you just basically snap them off at the end. So that's what supports
kind
is.
of like perforated, so they're easy to cut off.
Yeah, they're not printed as like thick. You can just heat them up with a blow dryer and pop them off.
A lot of the times you can just pull them off with your hands.
Oh, yeah.
It's really like, honestly, it's super weird because you look at it, you're like, oh, there's all this like support material, melted together, but you just like can grab it and pull it off. It's like, was it really supporting that much?
Yeah. So build plate adhesion, I won't really go into that, but that's kind of like the gist of 3D printing plastic. Obviously, it gets much more complex with like more complex models. This is a very simple model, so this is kind of just like an overarching, like this is how you do it. So let's talk resin for a bit. Let's see here. So for resin printing, I use the Mars 3 Pro 4K. That one is a little bit more expensive. It's a completely different type of the way that it works. So this one runs about $300. Now the way that the first one works is you have a tool that melts filament, and if you put a lot of shit on there, it takes a long time, right? The way that this works, there's an LCD screen beneath a vat of resin, liquid resin, and layer by layer it is pulled out from the liquid. Now, on a resin printer, as long as it fits on the plate, it doesn't matter how much stuff is on there because the screen illuminates all at once. So oftentimes, like, you want to cram as much shit as possible on the build plate because it doesn't add any time. So this is what I recommend, and the program that I use is called Chitubox. If you look at resin, I like to use water washable. I've heard some people have not had good luck with that. I personally don't have any difficulties with that, but your mileage may vary. You can get it in different colors. So let's see here. You can get it in beige, black, clear blue. The clears are some of my favorites, but they're very brittle. Green, red, gray. I typically print in gray. White, smoky black, mint green. I've always wanted to print mint green, but it's expensive. And yellow. So it literally is like liquid, and when it is exposed to UV light, it hardens. So you want to print indoors. Obviously, you want to print somewhere that's dark. So when I'm printing, I never open my garage door because it would ruin the resin. Even though it technically has like that little clear red thing that covers it, I just don't even chance it because this stuff is quite expensive. So this is about $30 a 1,000 grams, a kilogram. Now the thing is though, with plastic printing, you don't get a lot of waste. Even when you support an item, the waste is not that much. So resin goes much, much, much less far than plastic. So let's look at Thingiverse. Well, we'll just say I downloaded the file for Thingiverse for that rifle. So we'll look at that rifle that we showed earlier. So here is Chitubox. So Chitubox, there's a lot less settings to change. And to be honest, I can't really bore you guys with those settings because it's basically you import your printer and it kind of sets everything up for you. So it's much easier. Thank you. And before I go into that, this is what that dinosaur looks like at that scale printed in white. Yeah, so it's just, it's kind of hard to see because it's white, but
Yeah.
it holds pins, and my kid likes it. So that's... Actually, can I zoom in a bit more with it? Make it not as harsh. Nope, it's just nuclear white. Okay, so that's cool.
That was fast, man.
Well, I didn't print it now, obviously.
Oh,
I had this printed before. That would be pretty cool. No. Okay, so let's look at liquid printing, and I feel like we lost a lot of people because I was like 50 watching, now it's 22. So if you're still here, I appreciate you being here. People are like, man, we didn't come for this shit. So when I say that you waste a lot of material, so the blue is the rifle, and everything else is just the shit that you need to make the rifle print. And you are wasting a lot of money printing resin. I'll be honest, I don't like printing resin, but the results are really good. So to print this rifle, it's about, these prices might be a little low because resin kind of has gone up since I started, but you're looking at about $350 probably in resin, and that's for 65 grams. And the final product is probably only going to be 20 grams of that. So you're losing about 2/3 of your material to waste, which really sucks, to be honest.
And that's where the optimization comes in, as you mentioned earlier. About setting it up to where you can use as much or less of those.
Exactly.
Support, right?
So on Chitubox, You can choose light, medium, or heavy. You can also like support it yourself, but just for the sake of comparison, we'll do a light support. So I don't personally think I would try this with light support, but if I did, let me just continue anyways. If I did, that would be about $2.14, so about $3 worth of printing. And if I did heavy, which I certainly probably wouldn't think this would need, the cost of that would be, so you see the little supports are getting smaller and thicker depending as we change this. That would be, let's see. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that, bud. That would be $2.59. So it actually doesn't change that much. The cost to go heavy. So you really have to decide when you're printing like this. So orientation does matter. So let me remove all the supports. So when I downloaded the file, it looked like, oh, why is it all crooked? Let's see. It looked like, okay, it's just going to be crooked, I guess. It was basically flat. And when you print, they always say like start at 45 degrees and support that way. And what that does when you do 45 degrees is you're starting with a very small point of the model. And the model will begin developing much larger in each slice. And you want to have it so that there's not too much surface area at any one time. So for example, if I was to print it flat like this, that first slice is now like this. And that puts a lot of pressure on the plate. And a lot of times the model will fail. It'll fall off the plate into the liquid.
Yeah.
And that's a bad thing. So
Or,
you basically...
I don't know if it's a problem with SLA printing, but like in PLA as well, sometimes that really thin layer gets too hot and it starts to warp, and then it'll fail that way too.
So what's the difference between this here? Because it seems like there's like a lot of tiny like surface
Yes.
areas, but I mean the volume altogether would be more than having it flat. It seems like, wouldn't it?
Correct, but it is, but these layers are made much thicker. You can see they're like real thick. Like
Oh, I see.
it's a lot of material.
Oh, okay.
And these are also printed differently. Like remember in the plastic example, you can pull those off pretty easily.
Yeah.
These are printed like differently than the actual blue stuff.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they don't cause as much pull on the model. So this is how that would print. So again, you have all these little trees, and then they finally meet up, and they begin supporting the model. So this is a great question. So the end product between resin and the one from the filament, so what's the quality like? So this is an example of a raw print that all I did was prime it and paint it. So let me zoom in here. So this is straight off the printer, took the little trees off, and then painted it black, and then hit it with a dry brush. And you can see all those little tiny little details in the print.
And that was resin, or
That was resin. Yeah, that was
okay.
resin.
Yeah,
So-
resin is a lot, and you could still smooth it out if you want to, but resin almost has no like visible print lines.
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to look for them to see them. As PLA, there's usually a ton of print lines that you could see.
So this is an example of a wallet that I printed in. This is actually my wallet that I use every day in plastic, and it's kind of. Let me see if I can zoom in, like way zoom in. It's kind of hard to see, but there are like small, like you see the little cross section lines from the support structure, and then just like the. It might be better to see it on this side.
Too harsh. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you can see those little layer lines.
Yeah.
Those, like when you're doing something like the N1 that's back there, right there, I mean, you're filling and sanding. Oh, actually, this might be a good example. Here, let's look at this up close. So you see how those little lines are?
Oh yeah.
And if you look there, like all this, I'm having to sand by hand.
Yeah.
Whereas this wouldn't really be a good print to do in resin because it's hollow. But if you were to, if just to say you wanted to print this in resin, you basically pop it off the build plate and it would be ready to paint. Whereas this is taking hours of sanding to do. Yeah. So the difference is resin is sharper and there's much less prep work, whereas plastic is stronger and you can use it for functional things.
Yeah, I would almost bet you could chuck that ocarina across the room and it'd be okay. But if you'd printed that in resin and just dropped it at like ankle height, it would shatter.
So, for example, this is a resin shoulder pad for the bow shoulder pads that I'm doing. This is one of the ones that didn't meet my quality standard. So you can take it and just snap it. Like it will snap. It's strong. Like obviously you would never do that to the shoulder pad, and it'll survive a drop, but you can snap it pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Whereas like something 3D printed in plastic, it's surprisingly difficult to break. Like I'm sure I can break this. Like I don't doubt that I can, but this is probably like less than 1 millimeter thick of plastic for my 3 3/4 stands. And I mean, it's much stronger. I mean, you can bend it, but that's like it. I mean, yeah, you could probably break it by just like flexing the material, but like that took a lot of effort to do. So things that are functional, I like going plastic. Things that are like, you want that crispy detail, like you want this type of like detail, you would go resin. Like this right here is one of my miniatures that I printed and painted of my character. In resin, you couldn't print that in plastic. I mean, you could, but it would look bad.
It would look really bad. Even because I printed my character, I wish I had a 2-eye. I don't think I do. I printed my character at like, I think he's like 9 or 10 inches tall, and there's so many print lines. I was like, there's no point in even trying to paint this.
Yeah. So Bob Dylan says, I've heard resin doesn't hold paint texture the same. So instead of painting a resin sculpt, it's better to cast a mold than create a recast in ABS after you've printed a master sculpt in resin. That's not true. The reason that it's easier. So injection molding, I think, is probably the reason people would do that. Resin, once you prime it, it behaves exactly like plastic or, anything else that you would paint. The difference is like to print a head sculpt, 3D print one, might take you to print like a really low layer line. Let's just say 10 hours, right? But to cast it, once you have that master and you're satisfied and you make a mold, it might just take you 15 minutes to make a copy of that. So that's the benefit, right? You can mix up liquid resin, pour it into your mold, and then 15 minutes later you have a resin sculpt. Now, ABS, I don't have experience with it, but I mean, plastic takes paint very well. I don't know that it's that much different. Once you prime it, the surface becomes uniform. So he's saying, I was told resin is porous. You might be thinking of like casted resin, but even then, casted resin you can paint just fine. Yeah, so I think it's the difference there is how fast you can reproduce your work, right? So even the example of like the well, those are not really good examples, but none of these are good examples, but let's say I had something even plastic and I wanted to replicate it, it would be much less time to make a mold and cast it than to reprint it, but then I'm dealing with a whole different set of things. Now, there are times I do use Prusa Slicer, which I'll show you guys right now, because I think Prusa Slicer has really changed the way that I 3D print a lot. Even though I don't own a Prusa printer, I can show you how that works. So this is Prusa Slicer. It is just, a slicer program. So, Dean, this is what you use primarily, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take this blaster and I want to say my Z height was, I think it was 182, which it might be too big for this printer because I think my build plate is pretty small. Let's just pick this size. On Prusa, I like to auto support, so it'll give me a angle that it thinks is the best and then support it. And I've found that I can get by with much less material using Prusa Slicer, but I tend to have more layer shifts. So if I do like the bow shoulder pads, the reason that I have so many failures is because I used the Prusa support at first, and then I did it again with Chitubox with like more support. So I got rid of those layer shifts because they were just terrible for the first batch. But yeah, that's how you support it. They just export it and import it into the next slicer and print. So That's like a crash course on 3D printing. I know it wasn't super entertaining for, I guess, half the people that left, but if you stayed around, I appreciate it. We'll keep this video up public for forever, I guess. Hopefully the Patreons won't be too upset about that, but I get a lot of questions about 3D printing, so I wanted to finally, do a little bit of a stream on it.
Zach's Wonderland's gonna take a hit.
That's okay. I'm sure I'll make it up eventually. It's less work for me, right?
And if you enjoyed this complimentary tutorial, please check out the Oxfeller Zach's Wonderland on Fiverr.
Yeah, hit me up on PayPal for a thank you.
Yeah, that's true, Sean. Printing plastic, you just need the printer, and that's it. Printing resin, you need the curing machine, you need alcohol to clean it, you need gloves, breathers. It's a whole fucking ordeal.
With water washable, it's not too bad, like the fumes and the glove stuff, but it's it just depends. Like anything is not safe, right? Like you could own a television, and on the back of the box it'll say like this can cause cancer. We have to put like whatever. So anything that you do probably will cause cancer, right? So I want to be very clear. It's not the safest thing to do 3D printing, but I'm a little more liberal with my printing because I print so much. I don't usually go like full hazmat suit every time I step into the garage, but so I'm not the best example, but I know people that have been printing for years, and there are things that I absolutely will not do, and I always make sure to wash my hands. And anytime I'm dealing with a lot of fumes and stuff, I'll open the garage and put on a breather. But you just have to look into it and consider kind of what what level of risk you want to take. But
Zach,
Precautions, yeah.
yes,
the guts and
no,
Griffiths-
DJ. Just to clarify, 3D printing doesn't cause cancer, but I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, like, a lot of people will point to that and say, well, I'll just hire a 3D printer, or I just don't ever want to get in the hobby because it can cause cancer. The thing is, anything literally that you do probably every day, you probably do 10 things that cause cancer or can cause cancer. So I'm just saying, if you want to get into 3D printing, like Dean said, I want to be very clear. It can be dangerous, and there are a lot of other things that you need. That we're obviously doing a very simplistic overview of 3D printing. I would say to get started, I got a good deal on the printer. I got it for $180 for the resin printer. I think it was about $400 before I made my first print in resin, supplies, cleanup stuff, desk to put it on, and then the curing machine. And Mark Pearson invested like more than half of that money. So you wouldn't have a Zach's Wonderland without Mark Pearson. Mark Pearson's a great guy, and that's why he's he's always been a great guy. But he's helped me get into printing, so can't thank him enough for that. Yeah, Slifer, I'm not sure if you were here earlier, but we unboxed these wonderful challenge coins. So thank you for that. If you want to tune back in, we got to unbox these. So.
Zach, the guts and Griffith are on pre-order at PBTS right now.
He's $100 and a $10 NRD though.
It's $10.
Vintage Rebellion says, Zach, telling like it is, don't get in the car this morning if you want safety. Sean says the cheeseburger I ate is going to take me out faster. Yeah. Just consider your risks. Worst case, there's a lot of people that will print for you. And I'm not even saying I'm the best printer. There's some people that have made some bow shoulder pads, and I'm like, damn, they did really good. There's also some people that have made them that I'm like, damn, I can't believe anyone wanted to buy those. So if you want to buy from Zach's Wonderland, you're like, damn, like those prices are high. There are many printers that can do stuff. And to be honest, I've turned down a lot of projects because of like I only have one printer of each type, and I just can't dedicate a lot of time. Like I feel so bad because Fern wanted me to print him clone armor, but to buy the files, to print them, and to tie up my printer for a week printing, it just wasn't something I was particularly interested in. And then like the files were very expensive, and technically not sellable. So there's a lot of people that print out there. Don't think that Zach's Wonderland is the one that you need to go to. Shop those prices around. I think my prices are really good compared to a lot of other people's. I usually do them pretty cheap. So, shop wherever you feel comfortable. And, if you ever have any questions and you need some help with 3D printing, you can always message me on Facebook. Let's see, Ben, before we sign off, Ben said he sent me a message. Let's check his message first.
Oh, check it. While you're doing that, quick question, going back to the brands. some brands better than others for the 3D printers, or are they basically just the same except for the features they have?
I like Mars, the printer that I have. There are, what's the best way to put this? There are very cheap 3D printers, and there are really expensive 3D printers. Both printers that I have are basically like the Honda Civic of 3D printers. Like they're cheap, they work good.
What's cheap
There are
about 'em, or
certainly
why are they
printers with
cheap?
more creature comforts, though. So yeah, it just really depends on kind of what you're looking for in terms of. Damn, Ben sent me this file. Yeah, Elegoo and Anycubic. That's exactly. So Ben, I'll look at the file right now live, but that might be a bit tough to print. But we'll look at it. We'll give it the old college look, as they say. Let's see here.
I don't think they say that.
I think someone says that. God damn, that's huge. Okay, let's do just 30%. So typically, like when someone tells me, "Can you print this?" This is what I do. I go to Chitubox, I'll import the file, and I don't know. Like, let's just say Ben hasn't given me a size, so I'm just gonna make it whatever size I want. We'll do 25% for now. And then obviously, like, there is a markup. I'm not just printing it for my cost. So Ben said, "I don't think it's a legit file." I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh yeah, that's another question I had. The G code. I would think there'd be like some sort of validation to say, "Hey, we can't use this file." But you're saying like it'll just work and it'll fuck up your printer.
Well, so the G code is just like move print head to this, like plus or minus from 0. Deposit this much material. Move print head to along this path.
Yeah.
It's just a.
Oh, there's like directions,
It's basically like the
like coordinates.
yeah the coordinates. That's exactly what it is.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. I see.
Oh yeah, and like Vintage wanted us to say the next Star Wars HasLab is 100% the Ghost confirmed. Yeah, Ben, I just searched up Borg Cube, so I didn't actually just look at what you sent me. So, is it possible? Let's see what it would potentially cost.
Oh, there's
So-
the Death Cube.
I guess. So it is possible. I would probably charge you like an amount for this. This seems too low for what this is. I feel like this is hollow. Is it hollow? It looks like it's solid.
Hellraiser.
Oh, interesting. That is. I don't understand how that's only 40 grams, but okay. Is it possible? Possibly, I guess. I don't know. This is pretty small though. This is 30 millimeters. So, no, Sean, I would never hollow this because I would need to add a hole, and if I add a hole, I need to have a cap, and if I need to have a cap, then I just had bad experience with hollowing. So 30 millimeters is how many inches? Let's see. Let me just pull my pants down real quick. 1.18 inches. I don't know. We'll do 100 millimeters, I guess, for 3 inches, which is really a lot. Like probably 1 or 2 more inches than you really need. God damn, that's huge. Maybe not that big. What's 75? Or let's see. What's 3 inches to millimeters? 76. Okay, so that's. So I don't know if I can do it really much bigger than this. Let's see what this would cost. So yeah, so this would certainly probably be an expensive print because that's $5 just to print it, and then 3 hours, and then to prep all that because this is. Oh, that's not even supported. I'm sorry. So to support it, yeah, this.
No. Got in taxes.
Yeah, Sean, I have bad luck hollowing things because I've had things explode on me and I just don't have time to deal with that. Especially because I'm sending things out. I don't want anyone to like get something from me and then a month later it explodes and gets resin all over their stuff. So let's take a look
All over
here.
them. What?
I want to get nut all over them.
That detail in this cube that looks pretty.
Yeah, Ben, I'm sure they would. I'm lazy, bro. Okay, so let's just say if this is printable. Let's see. This is probably pretty expensive, to be honest. This probably be like $10 here. let's see. Let's see what it would cost. $660. Yeah, Ben, like for me to print something like this and also to take the risk that it would fail several times, I would probably charge you like $20 for this print, maybe a little bit more, and that's just like sending it in the color that like in gray. And if you wanted it printed, we can talk more. In theory, it would be possible. Obviously, I feel like this has to be hollow. The way that I still feel like this would be more, but I mean, and again, we're talking like all this waste of these little things. Like, yeah, it could be done, Ben. It could be done. Wow. I mean, I'm saying I think it could be done. I've never printed a solid cube like that, so I don't know. But yeah, we can maybe try it if you're genuinely interested. It wouldn't be $100. Ben says I'd give you $30. Yeah, we could try it if you want. If you're serious, let me know and I'll look into how much resin I have and what could be done. But anyways, I know this was a very dry After Dark compared to what we normally talk about. Joe, I will be honest. I don't think I'm gonna be playing Ox PD tonight. I know that was really fun last week, but I'm exhausted from today. So we'll try to play this weekend if we can, or Sunday. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, I love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode of After Dark.
Bye.
Jumbo babies.